Oh, there's already Minnie.
You're gonna get it.
I don't want to get it be shared.
Ah!
That's amazing.
Wrong.
Do not help him.
Too late!
Oh no! He's gonna eat it!
He would do it to you.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Look at his face, dude. He's like, what the fuck is this?
What's up, YouTube? Zach's back with another attack, and today we're here with Philip Earl Johnson, aka Moonie the Magnificent, aka many names, I'm sure, father, and much more. You have 4 kids, is that correct?
Yes.
So I guess just to get straight down to it, what do they think about this life that you live as a Renaissance fair performer, and you act in many plays and musicals, and you live quite a crazy life, if I can say that, and I'm sure as kids it had to have been kind of a weird experience for some of your children to have a dad that eats fire and walks tight ropes and things like that.
Yeah. Well, I think for the most part, they don't really think about it. Just like most kids don't really think about what their dad does when he goes to work, you know? I mean, they have come to see shows, but they don't really live that life. Like, they don't travel with me. They don't spend a lot of time with me when I'm working. I mean, there has been sometimes, but in general, it's not that, you know? They lead a very sort of normal suburban life, going to school with friends and playing sports, and just a normal American suburban life. That's what they have lived, I think. But they've never known anything else, because it's the only thing I do. It's all I've ever done. They don't know anything else. I think that probably I do television and films and commercials too. So I think when it's harder to explain. My dad's an actor, What do you mean? Well, he eats fire. What? You know, so when they see me on television in a, an episodic drama on NBC, or the friends see me on a television commercial, they go, "Oh yeah, oh that's my, my kid's dad, their friend." They get that. But when they come and see me perform my show, they have big eyes, like, whoa, like I wasn't expecting that guy, like the guy that's walking on a tightrope and going around licking people. That's a weird experience. And I'm just the guy that gets up and makes pancakes on Sunday morning.
So, I mean, you said you've been doing this for a really long time. You started doing this when you were 17, right?
No, well, yes and no. I started doing Renaissance fairs when I was 17, and I got into it through a friend of mine who said, "You want to go audition for the Renaissance fair?" And I said, "Well, what's that?" And he said, "Well, there's turkey legs and women with their boobs sticking out the top, so that there's jousting." I'm like, "Yeah, you had me at boobs, yes." Sure, that sounds fun. Let's audition. So, and that I had no idea that it would at all it would turn into a career at that time. And ironically, he's the guy who got me into it is a guy named Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, and he went on and went into rock and roll and got famous and left me at the Renaissance fair.
That's a joke, right?
Yeah. I mean, no, but it's funny.
Wow.
I mean, it's not like I'm sad about it. Like, I don't just do Renaissance fairs. Like, I do a lot of different stuff, but I'm very comfortable and happy working at Renaissance fairs. That has afforded me a very, very nice life.
You were mentioning turkey legs and stuff. Is there something that is a favorite fair food of yours? Maybe even at a specific Renaissance festival that you go to. I know that there was one specific thing that when I spoke with Arnie Parrott, he really loved the bratwursts at the Bristol Fair. And
well, he's from Wisconsin, so he has to say that. It's like being from Kentucky and saying you hate fried chicken. So I kind of, my favorite food, though I stopped eating meat, is I love that I do actually like the turkey legs the best, just because they're smoked and delicious and they're usually really moist and filling. But I stopped eating that kind of meat. So I don't really eat a lot of the food there because it's prepared in a way that isn't exactly healthy for me to eat all the time. Everybody who goes there, they're going there one time. I'm there every day.
That's a good point.
I have to make good choices. So I bring my own food. But if I'm gonna splurge, occasionally. No, God, you got me. I can't even remember buying food there. I can tell you this though, at the Bristol Renaissance Fair, they have. Oh wait, I remember. It was one of the best things I've ever eaten. It was about 7-8 years ago. It was at a tiny little fair in Central California, and it said wild boar sandwiches. I'm like, what? So I go up, and the lady lifts the top on one of those big metal tops on those warming trays that they keep food warm in, right? And she lifts the top, and inside it are these huge chunks of pork, but it's wild boar. And I'm like, oh my gosh, where did you get this wild boar? She said, my husband hunts it in the Sierra Mountains. And I was like, well, then I'll have one. This was obviously while I was still eating meat, and I gotta tell you, it was in maybe the top 10 best things I have ever eaten as far as flavor goes. And it was tender and delicious. And I had two. I was only there one day, working there for one day, and I had 2 of them because it was like, I'm never going to have this again. This will never happen again. It's just absolutely the end. So that is my favorite Renaissance Fair food. Wild boar sandwiches that happened one day at a Renaissance Fair that no longer exists. Happy to Brigadoon. It's like Brigadoon of food, you know. Once 100 years, you get one. It was awesome.
Awesome, yeah, good answer. So I know that you are ranked number 1, or at least have at some points been ranked number 1 in the country for your Renaissance Fair show. And so one of the things I wanted to ask is kind of how has the evolution of your show gone as you've been doing it for all these years? In one interview that you've done, you said that your acting on for plays was different from night to night. You, instead of just evolving with your performance as a whole, you perform your performance evolves with the audience that night and with itself, and it's kind of this ever-evolving thing to make sure you've got the best performance possible night after night. And I'm sure the same applies with your Renaissance Fair show. A lot of it's the audience and things like that, but overall through the years, what kind of major changes have been made to your show, and how has that kind of shaped you or been shaped by you?
That's a good question. I think the best way to answer it is that it evolves every show in tiny ways. Not in the fact that I am focusing on evolving or changing it in any one particular show, but there will be moments where I'm performing, and since I don't talk, if no one has seen my show, it's a non-verbal show, so the physical moves that are in the show become somewhat dance-like in that they have to be precise. And I have learned that very subtle shifts in where my hand is, or the way if my legs are straighter or more in a squat in a particular moment, and these are micro adjustments that are happening within the course of moving around quickly, doing a lot of these movements. So over 29 years and over 8,000 shows, making those tiny little micro adjustments to tell the story better happen all the time, and have been happening for 29 years. And it is the thing that keeps me interested, because I'm always paying attention to how the show goes, to how my moves are, how I'm connected, how those moves tell the story better with the audience, because sometimes the audience is more tired and hot. Sometimes they're chillier and want things to move more quickly. Or sometimes they're drunker and they're not getting it as quick, you know? So I basically, because I've done the same show and the same moves for 29 years, I use the data that I'm getting from the audience, and my data is the laughter. And so I know where the laughs are. I know exactly where the laughs are, and I know what that laugh should be, not necessarily on any given day, but it should be in relation to the other laughs. So if laugh A comes in at typically a 75% of what a maximum laughter level would be, I know the next laugh only usually comes in about 60%. But if I give a laugh and it's 75% and then it comes in only at 40%, I know that didn't land as much as I thought it would. So I have to make a quick judgment of, like, why didn't that land as well? Was I not as good, or was it the audience's fault? And unfortunately, it's usually the audience's fault. But I have to take that into account. I can't blame them. I have to accept them for who they are. And I use a lot of audience participation. It took me a long time to figure out that it wasn't my job to make the people that I brought up on stage, and also not the audience that's out there throughout the course of the show, it's not my job to make them be different than they are. It's my job to adjust to them. and bring them along in the best way to make the show be the best that it can be for that audience at that particular time. So it's very organic, it's very dynamic, and I'm constantly using that data to make adjustments along the way.
There's never been a time that you have gotten hurt or anything?
I have, knock on wood, I'm going to do this here so you can see it, but I'm also knocking on the wood that
I got a wooden desk here I'll knock on.
Because I am very superstitious, but I have been lucky so far. I have fallen. I've only fallen 2 times in my career where I fell like, okay, I really don't know how this is going to end, because I have fallen in a way that I can't adjust, I can't grab something, I can't break my fall somehow. And I've only done that 2 times in my career, and ironically, they were in the same show.
Oh wow! Was that kind of just an off day, or?
Well, it wasn't my show.
Oh.
It was the Moonie and Brune show. And so in the Moonie and Brune show, we make shit up. Like, we just, like, we don't have a plan. There are bits that we go back to over and over again, but there's no guarantee that we're going to do any one thing or say any one thing. And there's a lot of making stuff up. And we were trying something where I was on the rope and he was on the ground, and we were doing something, and I don't remember exactly, but I fell because I was doing something different than I normally do, and I fell backwards, and I landed falling backwards from a 6-foot height on my butt and my wrists, and I did that twice in the same show, and I got up and walked away, and it wasn't pleasant. It was painful, but non-injurious.
Good.
Yeah.
So I guess basic question that I've heard you talk about how you got started a little bit, but not so much where specifically the name Moonie comes from. Is that kind of just something that you made up as you were getting into it, or is there actually a story behind that?
There is a story behind it. I was another very popular show at the Renaissance Fair, many of them around the country, is called the Sturdy Beggars Mud Show. And I was 19. I was going to college, and I had already done the Renaissance Fair a couple of years in, very supporting, introductory level positions. And I was going to college studying theater, and one of the guys who did the Mud Show happened to be at the same university that I was at, Illinois State University, and he said, "Hey, I need someone to go do the Mud Show. I know you've done the Renaissance Fair. You want to come and do it?" I said, "I don't know how to do it." He said, "That's okay. Just do what I tell you, and it'll be fine." And I was like, "Yeah," because I was gonna make money. I was gonna make some good money. Like, heck yeah, let's go. So on the way to that fair, we're driving. I'm 19. And he said, you need a beggar name, because we played mud beggars. We played beggars, so we go out in the street and different names. So for example, they'd be like Lutila Fair Dinkum, Willem the Regurgitated, Spiny Nodules, Hack Patooey. These are some of the well-known names amongst the beggar ranks. And he said, you need a beggar name. What would you like? And I thought, and I said, how about Mildew Flowers? And he said, no. He said, you'll be Moonie B. Slut. And I said, okay. So I was Moonie B. Slut. And so then I started traveling around doing the Mud Show, and I got to this fair, and he said, what's your name? I said, Moonie B. Slut. He said, no. And I said, okay. Moonie the Magnificent. And he said, okay. Fine. So that's how we became Moonie the Magnificent. But I started out as Moonie B. Slut.
Wow, that is a better story than I expected. Awesome. So just a couple more questions. And the next one may be a little bit difficult because you have done so many shows, and I'm sure you've met so many people that it's uncountable at this point. But Is there any memorable fan interactions or anything like that maybe even somebody who you pulled up on stage and was intoxicated or didn't know how to go? Any interesting stories that are...
I have many that happen. Not all of them are memorable, but my most, I think, I until one tops it, I got to go with. I pulled up this guy, and you can actually find it on YouTube. It's called The Greatest Moonie Participant Ever, and if you just search in YouTube, Greatest Moonie Participant Ever. It's like a 13-minute video of some of the rawest, most terrifying comedy that you will ever see. Because it was this guy that I had gone out to get somebody to bring him up on stage for the final routine, which the guy's on stage for about 10 minutes with me, 10, 12 minutes, where I'm going to walk on a tightrope and he helps me up on the tightrope. Anyway, I go out and there's this big fella over on the side go, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I could tell he was far too intoxicated. So I was like, no. And I go and I get a guy. I pull a guy up, and that guy was terrible. He wouldn't do it. So I had to throw him. And most people do, but occasionally you get one that doesn't. So I throw him back. As I throw him back, first guy, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I'm like, no, you're too drunk. So I go get another guy, and that guy also wouldn't do it. He's just boring. It's not that they won't do it, it's just they're boring. And so I have to throw him back, and I go out, and number one is like, ooh, ooh, again. And this time the audience is pointing at him like, why not that guy? And I'm thinking to myself, you know not what you do, people. And I was like, okay. So because that's what the audience wanted, so it wasn't my fault anymore. So I grab him, I pull him on stage, and as soon as he gets on stage, he turns around. He's no longer paying attention to me. He's standing in the middle of the stage. He turns around, arms straight up in the air, and he screams, Bartholomew Tree Service, which is his business. He's taking the time to advertise for his tree removal service. And at that point, I don't want to spoil anything because, I will repost that video on Facebook every once in a while, and every time I get 80 comments, slapping my monitor, I'm peeing my pants. It's just so dumb, and I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't even me. So sadly, the greatest moment in my show just had me going shrugging my shoulders, I don't know, you guys wanted it, it's your fault, because the audience would see him go, he was doing crazy shit, and then the audience would look at me like, what are we gonna do? I'm like, what do you mean? This is where you want it.
I'm sure to a certain extent those kind of moments are really nice for you because you do the similar show so many times. To have something come in that kind of changes the show up and kind of makes things new and exciting for you in a way too.
Absolutely. My idea of hell, and I've said this so many years now that it's embarrassing that I came to this conclusion so early on in my career. My idea of hell is having to do my show for myself in a room by myself for the rest of eternity. No, the whole show is all about the audience. It's not even about me. It's about creating a connection with an audience and establishing trust with that they trust that not only am I going to be safe, but I'm going to deliver a good punchline every 3 seconds, and it's going to be fun. So I have to establish that trust. But you can't do it the same way. I'm doing the same show, but I don't do it the same way every time. So it's all about the audience. It's all about how they're responding and what they do when I bring people up on stage, or what they're doing out there and how I incorporate that into the show. That is all 100% the show. Yes, I walk on a tightrope. Blah, 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 blah. Who cares? I can do all these tricks. Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. It's not. Nobody cares about juggling. Nobody cares about whip cracking. Nobody cares about all that stuff. They care about the person who's doing it, and all the rest of it is just like, oh my God, look at that guy do that. It's not, oh, they did that thing. If it was, people do stuff on YouTube. People do stuff on video all the time. That's absolutely amazing. It's like people watch that, consume it in 5 seconds and go, look at that, neat. Okay, next. They don't care about that person. When they care about you as a performer, as an artist, then you could do the simplest little thing and then they care. That's what makes a show, not the fact that I can walk on a tightrope and juggle fire. They don't care about that.
Yeah. Does that mentality kind of extend into your other acting roles and plays and even TV and stuff, that it's for the audience instead of for you? Or, you've said before that you've kind of always wanted to be an actor, and acting's in your blood. That's what you've always wanted to be. So I'm sure it's at least somewhat for you as well. But would you say that mentality does extend?
It's different because with my show, the clowning is direct address. I'm directly interacting with the audience. With acting, I'm interacting with another actor on stage who is a character within a play. And so I am creating a reality which is new and different than the one that people presently are experiencing, which is I paid money, I went into a theater, I sat down in a seat, I have a program, the lights are on, ooh, the lights are going off, ooh, what are we going to see? That's actually the reality. But I'm creating a new reality through words and action and lights and sets and costumes and the stage manager who's turning the lights on and off. We are creating an alternate reality with each other. And so we're passing energy back and forth between us that bounces into the audience to involve them. So it is very much for the audience, but it's more indirect, the way that the audience interacts with the play. Except for the play I'm doing now, in a way. The play that I'm doing now is a thriller. It's scary, super intense, and there's lots of twists, and you hear people laughing and going, ooh, oh my God, oh, like they actually verbalize. So most plays you don't get that. But with this, the one I'm doing now, you get a lot of feedback, a lot of like, oh, ooh, stuff like that. And so we know it's landing. So it's more direct when you get an audience reaction like that. A comedy, a musical comedy, they're laughing a lot. They're applauding at the song. So you hear much more. But in a serious play about death, pain, and dying, which is what I normally do if I'm not doing my comedy show, there's a lot of sitting there in silence and then 50 people at the end going, ooh, thanks, that was really hard. Okay. Glad I came to the theater tonight. So you don't get a ton of feedback, so immediate feedback.
Definitely. So I got 2 more questions. The first one, I know that you've released 2 albums. Is that correct?
Yeah. I have two CDs of funny songs.
Yeah. How did that come about? And is there any that are more special to you? I know they're all pretty humorous, but is there any that either have like a special place in your heart, or they took a longer amount of time to write, or anything? And kind of how did you get into music from your acting and stuff?
I come from a kind of a musical family. My brothers are really good guitar players. I am not a really good guitar player.
Is that your brothers playing guitar on there then?
Yeah, it's me singing and playing guitar. But I always, I always wanted the music to be interesting, but I don't write music like someone who's a composer that knows all about scales and the modalities and the way that composers need to understand the full spectrum of music in order to compose. I just come up with a melody and then I find chords that so anyway, I write more intuitively. And I was never really I don't even consider myself a musician. But the ones that I like the most, funny, I'm a big fan of the short song. Like the short song that has like 3 or 4 lines and it's over in like 30 seconds. Like this one. I wrote, and I'll just do it so quick. Like, how far down your butt does your tattoo go? How far down your butt does your tattoo go? How far down your butt does your tattoo go? I don't want to see it. I just want to know. So, like, I like them where there's the setup, punchline, and I got a bunch of them that are like that. And when you can whip off like 5 of those in a row, there's a lightness that the audience gets. Like, oh, that was fun, and I didn't have to wait that long. And like, yeah, it's like really tasty candy, like delicious chocolate. People love that.
Yeah, I've enjoyed listening to both of those CDs, and I'll post a link in the comments or in the description, because those are actually both available on YouTube as well. Do you have any plans to do any more, or is that kind of on the back burner for the moment? And
I've thought about it recently, but to be honest, I don't play them very often anymore, so I can't even remember how to play all of them. That's the problem with music. If you don't use it, you lose it. I got to get somebody to figure it out for me, and I could easily relearn it, but I haven't had a need for it. But I actually have, within the last year, thought, I should just write some more songs and come up with some more stuff as for music. But I'm just so busy. I got so many different projects. I got a new storytelling show, and I'm going to Florida. I'm performing for the weekend doing that, and then I'm in a play now, and as soon as this play ends, in 2 weeks I start rehearsal for a new play, and that's 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, and still I got kids, and so it's like, yeah, you have these dreams, and you have these, but I hadn't thought. The interesting, you asked that, I just hadn't thought about doing it for many, many years, and recently it's been on my mind, so I think I would like to go back and try it again. The angle that I would like to do is like adult nursery rhymes, like things that are like, or nursery rhymes and Christmas songs. Like, that's not an appropriate song for kids. No, don't sing that one. Like stuff that just sort of pokes fun at it. So
cool.
Maybe.
Well, if you do, I will definitely be looking forward to hearing that.
Thanks.
And so the last question that I kind of try and ask everybody who I interview, I run a nonprofit organization that is against bullying and tries to help make lives easier and better for children who have to deal with bullying and things like that. So what I try and ask everyone is, when you were younger, were you ever bullied, and how has that affected your life? And do you have any advice or anything for those children who do get bullied today? Or
Well, I think there was one particular kid across the street when I lived in one of the houses when I was growing up, from age 4 to age 12, and we moved when I was 12, and it was really good that we moved, because he was pretty aggressive and pretty abusive. And it wasn't just to me. There was 3 of us that were younger than him, and then him, who was 1 year older. And he was, I was kind of a chubby kid growing up, and he had all kinds of names for me, and that was just the general way that he kept us all in line, was, negative negative feedback. And it definitely helped shape my self-image of myself. But I ultimately, we moved away at the right time, and I was able to, not have that be the most important element of my life, because it was unpleasant. And I would say that that's a great example of that. It may be dark at one particular moment in your life, but you have no idea what the next day or the next week is going to be. And so you have to find a way to hold on, and be strong and love yourself, because the abuse that you get from somebody else isn't about the person who's being abused. It's about the abuser. It's about the person who is creating the negative energy, and that helps them for some reason feel good, and that's wrong. But it's not your fault. It's not the person who's being abused fault.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your time. I definitely appreciate talking to you, and I know that it's been some good conversations and some insightful words of wisdom from Moonie the Magnificent. And hopefully anyone who has not seen his show, hopefully you get a chance to go to a Renaissance fair near you and see this hilarious man in his full routine. You will definitely not regret it. So, anything else, Phil?
No, I'll be in L.A. in the beginning of April for 2 weekends. I'll be in Portland area at the Portland Renaissance Fair for the second weekend of that fair. I'll be at the Bristol Renaissance Fair all season, and then after that I go to the Ohio Renaissance Fair.
Awesome. Well, I know I will see you there, and hopefully some of you guys do as well.
All right.
Thanks.
Take
Have a good
care.
one. You as well.
It's $1 or $2, we're fine. Or whatever you can do. But listen.
Hold on. Number 4, Bartholomew Tree Service.
Oh my God. Your beer is right there. Go! On the table!